happens.
Sounds good.
All right, it looks like we are live. I think we are live. Let's see here. And yeah, I think we are streaming. Let's see here. Silver Doctors Live. We are live indeed. We are live. It is 2:00. We're getting a little bit of late start today here, Mike. My name is Paul Half Dollar, and I will be running this show today. Unfortunately, not as good as Mike is. How you doing today, Mike?
I'm excellent, Mr. Half Dollar, man. It's great to connect with you. And as always, we're both getting better with this. So you do a great job when you host it. So I look forward to being on the other side sometimes.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Sounds good. And I will try and live up to your high standards of excellence there, Mike.
Oh man, hey, I try to learn from you, my friend.
I just want to get a thumbs up from people in the chat. Make sure that our audio is sounding good. If anybody can give me a thumbs up with in the chat there, that would be awesome as we get started here. I'm a little bit rusty. Let's see here.
So I got the chat up in front of me. Mm-hmm. So it looks like good afternoon. So people are there. So as always, any first-time viewers, let us know where you're watching from, and definitely will acknowledge your presence.
Yep, we got some thumbs up in chat, so we are good to go. I'm seeing green on my bars, Mike. So let me ask you the question. Where do you want to take us today, Mike?
Might as well get right into the primary subject matter, which happens to be the bailout, but it's not really a bailout. So just like Jerome Powell said, it's not QE. President Trump will never use the words bailout, but he'll say, I read some tweets a minute ago about cash and China's going to pay for this. Okay, yeah, sure. China's paying for this. Right. Okay, I question that. So we can start off with that because that's the most important subject matter to date, to my knowledge.
Yeah, that's one of the most important ones. And let me see if I can bring up this display here. I'll bring it up in a second as soon as I can get on to that. But here's what I wanted to say, right? And actually, I need to bring this up now. Okay, here we go. I got this window. I don't know if you can see this. Can you hear me okay there, Mike?
Yeah, everything's good. I see it.
Okay. Basically, it starts out with this, right? Actually, it was in July, so it's before this. This is a tweet from December 2018. But basically, my point is, since last July, there have been 2 bailouts already of the farmers. And this most recent one here on December 17th, 2018, I'm making good on my promise to defend our farmers. I've authorized Secretary Perdue to implement a second round of market facilitation payments. Now, fast forward that to today. Excuse me, hold on. Here's another good one. I don't even know if you can see the screen or not. But, fast forward to the end of October there, and just a quick reminder that we have the greatest economy in American history. So I don't know if you can see that. So that brings that brings us up to today, right? And then I'm just going to read it. Our great farmers will receive another major round of cash compliments of China tariffs prior to Thanksgiving. So this is like coming up like now, like right now. The smaller farms and farmers will be big beneficiaries. In the meantime, and as you may have noticed, China is starting to buy big again. Japan deal done. Enjoy. So there's a few things I wanted to talk about here, Mike. First of all, if the American economy is doing good at all, even at all, not just forget about being great, forget about being the greatest in history. If it's even doing good at all, how come we have to have a third bailout now? Right? So I hated to write this in my thing this morning, but that either means one of two things, right? Trump's lying about the economy or the farmers suck at farming. And I don't think the farmers suck at farming, Mike. I really don't. I mean, we pretty much started the whole concept of big ag here in the United States.
Well, watch this. Without me even knowing much about agriculture and the farming sector itself, I had imagined over the last 100 years, give or take, since we transitioned out of that age into the industrial / now technology age, farming the way it used to be done, I'm sure is a lot different because now the farmers are doing it with so much high technology and so much capital that's been borrowed. So most farmers may not even own their land, nevertheless, the equipment and all the technical things that I know nothing about. So with that being the case, the business side of farming has changed to where it's clearly, I imagine the farmers know how to farm. It's just that they are so overwhelmed with tech as well as just indebtedness to where they can't sustain their current level of operations unless some liquidity is injected in there somehow, some way. And then another question will be, I've heard over the years that China themselves have purchased a lot of agricultural farmer land in the Midwest. So basically that cash could be going right to China's pockets again, because they may even own most of those farms. So it's one of the things where it's not because they can't farm, but I think farming has become so advanced that they've been forced to go out to the open market or whoever to fund that stuff. And therefore things are drying up a little bit because of the trade stuff, on top of whatever else.
That's a very interesting point you're bringing up about the debt, because, yeah, we hear about that, right? And this is very expensive stuff. Think about, we talk about asset price inflation. Yeah, the value of all this land has gone up big time, right? And then on top of that, the cost for all of this equipment, right? This farming equipment is not cheap at all. So that's definitely something going on there. Here's something else that I was thinking about, right? If you were going to stock up your pantry and really load up on food, right, would you wait until, you just paid whatever, or would you try and wait for like a really good sale so you could get as much food as you could?
Oh, wait for a sale. Anytime, any day.
Yeah, it's kind of like your philosophy was stacking there, right? You can get more weight when you have a cheaper metal price. Same thing with food, right? You can get more food if you can buy it on sale. My point with that is this. The dollar has basically been rising against the Chinese yuan for 5 years. And just this year we broke seven to the dollar, right? So it takes, 5 years ago it was like 6, call it 6. Now it takes 7. So before it took only 6 yuan to get $1. Now it takes 7. My point with that is that in the tweet today, President Trump was talking about the fact that China's already starting to buy big time. But why are they buying when food is most expensive, right? It doesn't make common economic sense, because you would stock up on food when it was on sale, right? So I don't know. This whole thing smells fishy about China buying all this stuff. Any thoughts on that there, Mike? Because of the exchange rate, right?
Yeah, I agree 100%. And so this is more evidence of how looking at President Trump's tweet can be very deceiving, because a lot of people, a lot of his original supporting base, I'm assuming, will still believe in him or believe in his narrative. But yet it's only so much you can say before it's just outright like questionable. Like, I can't say it's a lie. I can just say it's a distorted reality, because this economy being great, that's what he says. But then we've been talking about this for several months now, how there's more indicators that comes out more and more saying that, PMI is down, this is high. There's just so much stuff out there that it's more stacked up against his narrative than there is to actually believe in his one little liners. The economy is doing great. All this evidence, one line, the economy is doing great. Who do you believe is it going to boil down to? So, yeah,
that's an interesting point you bring up, because, when I woke up this morning and I look at the prices of gold and silver, what happens? They're just walking them down all night long, and I'm like, oh, well, the world must all of a sudden be fixed, right? I mean, there's nothing bad going on in the world. I mean, silver's sitting at 1670, almost lost 1670 again this morning. Gold was down into the 1450s again. So I'm like, oh my goodness, what's going on now? But there's not all this newfound peace and happiness in the world, right? Did you see what's going on in Hong Kong? I mean, that's absolute chaos in Hong Kong now. They're throwing Molotov cocktails and setting armored water tanks on fire.
Watch this. Here's something that most people watching may not have heard yet or may not have come across your radar. Saturday afternoon in Iran, in Tehran, Iran, the capital, the protesters, they burnt the central bank building. So they actually threw Molotov cocktails into the building. So the central bank of Iran is burning on Saturday. So I saw this last night, and it was like one of the things where, how many more countries will there be uprisings in before people wake up to the reality that it's just a matter of time before it comes here to the U.S. Because it's happening all around us. The U.S. cannot stay isolated from all these social unrest events without it actually coming to roost one day in our heartland. So, yeah. But the difference is they don't have weapons. They don't know. All they know outside of us usually is discomfort. Here, we don't know that. So imagine, things don't go well. What do people do? How do you hit the streets across the 50 states? Yeah.
Did you see like the police officer? They're trying to make him like he was a liaison officer. So he was like a media police officer. Who knows what the real deal is? But did you see the guy that got struck in the leg with an arrow?
I saw a picture of this, and then I saw a person on the floor. I didn't read the article though, but
yeah. So this guy, there's like an arrow sticking out of this guy's leg. He got shot in the arrow. So that's one of the things that I brought up this morning, right? I mean, Hong Kong is a major financial center, right? It's a major part of the financial universe. So if once this and if they're all they got is arrows, right? Obviously, I'm sure they have a lot stricter gun control there, right?
Yeah, I'd imagine so.
So, yeah, when it comes to the United States, because people think, oh, well, that's never going to happen here. It's happening in one of the top 5 financial centers of the world, right? I mean, no place on earth is immune from this type of stuff, so.
Watch this. I just pulled up an article right here that I came across the other day, but it says Hong Kong expects first annual recession since 2009 as protests rage on, and I was on CNN. And so think about this from an economical standpoint, as far as that little region there, because all commerce is stopped, all activity in the form of business is stopped. I'm assuming that the result of that will be businesses having to close, having to lay off more, debts not being repaid, and all the issues that go with a collapse is happening right now as a people protest. And I think it's gone further than the initial cause. And so to my knowledge, it was the idea of China enacting some laws saying about extraditing people back to the mainland for criminal and whatever prosecution. That's what I originally heard. I'm sure it's more than that, but it's going a lot further than people would have ever imagined, and it's nowhere near being resolved. And so the only way that issue is going to be resolved is if China comes in and actually forces law of some kind, or the people just all together uprise and just send China back, which won't happen. So I think
China's got the upper hand on this as far as the brute force goes. And they're talking about they finally came out of their barracks for like the first time since 1997. I didn't realize that like they never ever leave. Like, I don't understand the concept of barracks. I think that means post, right? Because when I think of barracks, I think of, where is it that you're sleeping? That's the barracks, and it's like a building. So it might be lost in translation a little bit. So it might be like they don't go off post, but still, I mean, there's been some of those big time developments, and those are some interesting points you bring up there. But now that we got the live stream going good, Mike, let's take this time to go ahead and welcome some people, because I'm quite rusty when I run this thing. So let's take it over there with some welcoming people from the chat here, Mike.
Good point. I forgot about that. I forgot we're live. All right. So let me see here. I'll just go back into the top and see. We didn't acknowledge anybody either. So we got Robin Hood, we got Brandon, we got Dave, Big Kenny Boy, we got Passhead, we got Chris, Ernest. Let me see here. It says white background is too bright, so I apologize. Yeah, I gotta. January, GMO, pesticides, Monsanto stock buyback. Ooh, that's blood pressure right there. Yeah. So that's without going any further, think about all the extra stuff that's been incorporated to the farming sector, Monsanto, the GMOs, all the artificial food, and all that stuff that goes well beyond my knowledge base is involved in that, to where I can imagine why they're so cash strapped. Because think about who owns all that, and Anyway, I'm stopped.
Because the concept of suicide genes, right? That's like one of the things with Monsanto is that, like, part of this whole crop thing with getting all these like massive amounts of harvest, part of that is that these seeds are genetically engineered so that they cannot reproduce, right? So that you have to go back and you have to purchase these, proprietary seeds, right? Which is what they are. And then you got to spend all that expensive stuff on the fertilizer and the pesticides. And I mean, it just goes on and on. So that's another good point you're bringing up there too.
Yes, sir.
Definitely.
Ooh, so watch this. Just while we were talking about the bailouts, I just typed in total farmers bailouts into my little search engine here. And so it says, I got an article here from September 24th from the Detroit Free Press. It says farmers are hurting. Net farm income this year is expected to total about $58 billion, the second lowest profit of the past 10 years. And then it says Trump administration reveals deals of $16 billion farm bailout. This is back in July. And then in September, it says farmers say Trump's $28 billion bailout isn't a solution. And so the question will be, at the end of the day, how much will be needed to keep that industry afloat? Because that's the heart of our country, because that's where our food comes from, amongst other places. So, is bailing out the farmers going to be, is it a good thing in a sense, because it keeps them in operations, keeps food, being distributed across the country, across the world? Or, okay, so for example, we say if the banks are going out of bail, the banks having problems, let them fail. But will we want the farmers to fail? Will be the question to ask ourselves. So bailout good, not bad? I don't know. What do you think? Is it good to bail them out or is those funds actually been funneled somewhere else and not to the farmers?
Man, you bring up a great hard question right there, Mike, because that's hard for like a free market. Like I don't have any political affiliation, right? But if you would say it, it would be like I would kind of lean like libertarian, right? As far as like less government, the better. So that's a hard question because you're bringing up like because theoretically this is essentially a national security issue, right? Because, like you have to have an army and you have to feed an army, right? So, I mean, there are some deeper issues here. But, it's a mess, right? And I didn't know about that 26 or 28 you had just spoken about. So it's like, it starts off at 12 and then it goes to 26 or 28. And, by the end of the year, it's going to be 100 billion. And that's only a month and a half away. So it's never enough, right? It's like the Fed's QE4. When does this end? It's never going to be enough. And part of the reason is because this ends in hyperinflation. This ends in inflation. So it's always just going to have to be more and more added on to it. I have been even without with or without the bailouts, I just have been noticing just in general, man, food prices are going up big time lately. So
now watch this. Okay. With bailouts, they're positioned and sold to the public that they're temporary loans. And so if you lend how many ever billion to an entity that's based upon like planting seeds now and being able to pull out the crop next season or whatever that time frame is, with all this trade war aspect and there not being a resolution between now and then, they might have more crops that they may not be able to sell at a profit to where they won't be able to pay back those loans if they are actually going to pay it back. So even bailing out or providing temporary liquidity, like the repo market, there's no guarantee that it'll be returned back in a sense that it'll be healthy for the borrowers as well. I mean, the creditors, they just pump money anyway, but so how do you pay that back?
and going within it, right? See, because I'm thinking this is like basically subsidy stuff, right? Like going back to the 1980s with like farm aid and stuff like that. That is just I'm under the assumption that it's a handout, not that it's so much of a loan. I guess I would need to dig into the specific details about it. But if these are loans, right? If not everybody's just getting subsidies, but if they're getting loans to get bailed out, then that's, you're not helping anything. You're just creating more problems. And like you said, you're levering up even more. And this is one more bad harvest cycle. And, just the farmer bankruptcy rates, they're out of control as far as they're skyrocketing as far as the number of bankruptcies that we're seeing. And it's across all the different subsections, right? Like I keep reading about Wisconsin dairy farmers and how much trouble that they're in. And it just cuts across here. We saw, I can't remember which state they lost like 1 million cattle. I mean, my goodness.
Yeah, so is that what you're referring to about the whole bankruptcy? That one of the leading dairy farmers went bankrupt? Are you referring to that one?
Dean Foods, they filed for bankruptcy. Yeah, that's the largest dairy processor in the country. So with that bankruptcy comes. I saw the article about there being 4, 5, 6 different subsidiaries and affiliates and other parts of that Dean Foods organization. So if they're restructuring or laying off, think about it, that's going to be maybe thousands of jobs that will be lost. And then you're going to have all the liabilities that they're on the hook for, pensions, retirements, and all that stuff. They got to figure out how to reform and restructure. And so, yes, that's what they referred to, Mike. That's what they referred to in the article that I read that we featured. It talked about, they cited high and growing hard to service debts, right? And what does that mean? That means the pension and the retirement plans.
Yeah, man, I can go on a whole nother tangent with pensions because I came across some information this weekend about I can't say the number off the top of my head, but the total global pension unfunded whatever. It's gotten worse just this year. Like it's gotten worse just this year where the numbers went up incrementally. It went up very, very high. And I'm thinking man, that's just 2020. I can't help but continue to say 2020 will be the introduction or the reawakening of the masses in a way that they never would have imagined. Like everybody's getting ready to transition to a new decade thinking that the economy is doing great. Like that tweet, the economy is doing great. Enjoy. So the only thing, think about this, the only thing Trump probably is saying incorrectly is that NASDAQ stocks are all-time high. Enjoy. So enjoy that nominal figure on your statement that comes in the mail saying that you have X amount of whatever, because once again, unless that thing continues to go up, the day that it comes down is the day that everything else, that your world might be based around will also be adjusted or corrected with that as well. So I don't see much natural or financial positive news in this next decade.
Yeah. It's interesting because I got an email, and I've been getting a lot of these lately, just, man, Halfdollar, you got to talk about some positive stuff. You keep talking about some negative stuff. But, I look at it like this, right? I look at it like, since I feel that you can't make America great again before you drain the swamp, I feel like there's so much bad pressing market and economic news that has to be considered right now, right? Because people have to be aware of what's happening, what's going to continue to happen, and how it's going to get worse. So, it doesn't do me any good trying to find and pick and choose little one-off success stories about the economy when there's just so much going on around us that just spells bad economic news. Any thoughts on that? Do you find any people talking about, man, you just talk about negative economic stuff, or I'm just kind of rambling there, but what do you think about that?
Yeah. No, so yeah, I would agree with you as well, because I've mentioned this on my channel as well as this. With all this doom and gloom, there has to be some light. And unfortunately, like I have to go there, because light I'm referring to has to do with the spiritual essence of our existence. It has to do with your faith. It has to do with who you consider to be your source. And so if you're dependent upon A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z, the government for your livelihood entirely, then you're going to be let down. But if your source is of a higher power, higher nature, all encompassing, all knowing, then it gives me a little bit of hope, because with that approach, I know that everything is going to be all right. And this is nothing new. This it ultimately is just a natural occurrence in history. Every now and then, like even in biblical terms, they had famines that lasted for a couple, whatever. People stored up well before the famine, made it through the famine, and then life goes on. So the same thing here, but this time it's going to be global and it's going to be technology based. So it's going to be a little bit more shocking, but life will go on. So, get to the essence of your source, which happens to be, for me, the Lord Jesus Christ. And so for everybody else, do you. But if you have that point of reference and that's at your back and your front, you'll be good. So I'm more so excited now as I think about this, because with all this doom and gloom comes opportunity for the person that's aware and know what to look for. So yeah, I'm trying to educate myself to look for something worthwhile.
Yeah, and I think that's well said. Those are good points, because you have to be doing it for a higher purpose. I think that's well said. And secondly, I want this to go through so that we can make things better again, right? I mean, we're not going to be able to get better until we face all of this bad stuff. And I think you're right. If you're using God or whoever it is that you're using to help get you through this, that's definitely one of the ways to help also just maintain sanity through all of this, right? Just to be able to power through it. Because
you will lose your mind if you don't have it on something greater than your problems.
Yep, well said. So I think there were a couple comments down here. Low Blood Pusher said something about the U.S. has imported corn for the first time ever. And that's actually pretty interesting and pretty big, because Russia a couple years ago just passed the United States for being the #1 wheat exporter. And I remember down in Mexico, one of the things I used to talk about is, how is it that we're in Mexico and we eat so much corn, because like that's one of the ways they measure inflation, right? With like the cost for a kilo of tortilla, right? How much is tortilla? How much is a kilo of beans? How much is a kilo of jalapeno, right? That's part of the basket of goods. But my point with that is, they would always say, how is it that we eat so much corn here in Mexico, but we have to import it from the United States? But if these tables are turning, because so many things that we've been talking about, the bankruptcies, the bad weather, the historic flooding that we've seen in the Midwest, I mean, those are all just these are eye-opening developments here.
Yeah, unbelievable. I wasn't aware of that one.
Yeah, I wasn't
I
aware of
wasn't
that
aware of
one
that.
either. I mean, we're going to have to take low blood pressure for face value. We can't have him call in today and give us his source to tell us that since our phone lines are down. You know, someone also commented about how it's so like blurred out behind you, but you know, you're in
Uh-huh.
Area 52 again, and that's what we got to do. We can't show them the stuff that's behind you. You know what I mean, Mike? So we can't give away those alien secrets.
Very true. Oh man, I ain't gonna go there. Because this past weekend had some thoughts about the extraterrestrial, all that extra stuff. I'm gonna keep it out there, but yeah, I'm gonna leave it alone.
Um,
So go ahead.
well, I was just gonna say a little bit of gold and silver talk. Let's get into a little bit of gold and silver talk here.
Yeah.
There's been some other developments on the COMEX lately that is just now starting to come to light. But there's been some changes where, like, it's interesting because HSBC, I don't know if it still is, but that's a bank out of Hong Kong, right? It used to stand for like the Hong
Hmm.
Kong something Shanghai Cooperative Bank or something like that.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on the exact words, right? But they're the largest short position on the COMEX right now, and the COMEX for gold. And COMEX
Hmm.
has been doing these changes where they are allowing, like you as a trader, right? If you wanted to buy some gold futures contracts, you have to put up margins. You have to pony up a little bit of money, right? Well,
Hmm.
bullion dealers, right? I'm not bullion dealers, bullion banks acting as clearing firms on the COMEX, right? Facilitating the buying and selling and actual delivery, supposedly, of the gold on the COMEX. Well, these banks are able to use like warrants and pledged gold and just other things that they're allowed to do on the COMEX. But what that does is that increases the paper dilution on the COMEX itself. So, you know, my point there is we've had open interest go through the roof, and now we're having like other things happen where they're raising the amount that people can say they have on their books because it's pledged gold or it's a warrant, which is basically a title to gold in the future, but it's not really a title to the actual gold itself. My point with all of this is that it just goes to show you how interconnected and tied in all these things are, because you have Hong Kong that's plummeted into recession. You got the Fed doing all this emergency liquidity injection stuff into the repo market. And then you got the COMEX changing all of their rules and allowing other things in what Dave Kranzer was calling a soft bailout of HSBC. So it's like we're right on the precipice of something right here. And it's interesting because like you wouldn't really connect gold, Hong Kong, and the Fed's repo market actions, but it's kind of like what's going on here is just this, you know, small world of a bailout that we see. And seeing part of that is seeing the gold price here and what's going on in the COMEX. Which is another reason why there's so much little downside, because, you know, people understand inherently, even though in the West it's not getting the media play, even though it's not getting talked about, you know, that's another thing. One of these, I think it was Serbia, their president was like, we need to purchase gold to prepare ourselves for a future crisis. Where is our Fed saying that? Where is our government saying that? You know what I mean? So I'm rambling
Only
again,
people
but
saying it is only people saying that is me and you. And watch this, in a world of unknown physical supply, but on the other side where there's unlimited paper and digital quantities out there that's being used for investment sake and manipulation sake, something's going to give. And at the end of the day, take advantage of this opportunity to get physical. Like, I mean, so that's the thing, like, you know, without even because you study that to the T, like that's something you study purposely. I try to stay away from it because you're going to go crazy trying to study all those numbers. Whereas in me, I'm just like, just get physical, take advantage of this time. And like President Trump says, enjoy the prices that you can use right now to actually get physical. So
yeah, because it ties back in with what we were saying earlier, right? When you said, well, you know, did you say 26 or 28 billion? I can't remember, but when you were
I
talking
think it
about
was
28,
yeah. So it was a headline. It was a headline of an article. But go ahead. It says something about 28. So I think it says Farmers says Trump 28 billion bailout. So this could have been the initial proposal. I'm not sure, but it says it's just a headline.
But it shows you that, you know, it's never going to be enough, right? It's never going to be enough. So if we think about it in terms of the gold market, they can never have enough paper, right? This is a losing battle because they're doing all of these changes incrementally where they're just adding more and more paper and just diluting the market. And, once this blows up, that means the blow up of this COMEX is just going to be even more spectacular than people are thinking, because they keep, everybody thinks we're so close to the moment when they lose control of the COMEX, but it's like a cat and mouse game where they're always adding something else, so it's like we're going to create a new category called pledged gold, and then the COMEX one-ups it, but people keep buying anyway, so now they got to one-up it again, and now we're going to say, well, you can use these warrants as collateral, and we're going to let you increase the amount of warrants that you can use as your collateral. That's where HSBC comes in. So there they go, and they up it again with the paper. So it's just going to show you it's never enough, right? And they would have definitely lost control already if they weren't doing these incremental emergency measures.
Yeah.
Any thoughts
Repo
on that?
action. Yeah. So while you were explaining that, I read it. I opened the link up, and so give you an idea of what the total was. So it says this was on Bloomberg. And sorry, I can't put it up on the screen, but Bloomberg as of September 19th, and a portion of this says at 28 billion so far, the farm rescue is more than twice as expensive as the 2009 bailout of Detroit's big three automakers, which cost taxpayers 12 billion. And farmers spent the money to keep the flowing, whatever. So they spent to keep flowing. In an August survey by Purdue University, the CME group, 58% said the anticipated another round and trade aid next year. So this was back in August. They were saying that they're anticipating the need for more bailout, but 28 billion so far without this new additional bailout. So 28 plus whatever was just last week or whatever exceeds the 12 billion given to the auto manufacturers.
No, that was yesterday. That was a Sunday tweet when Trump announced that. So that's fresh off the presses. Yeah.
Ooh. Okay, so go ahead. Yeah, so 28 plus that.
But that's what I was thinking, that it wasn't like loans, because I mean he put cash in quotes, right? To me, that's just like a flat out entitlement spending.
I'll
subsidized.
pay for it.
Yes, that's what that's.
I'll buy it for you. I'll buy him by subsidizing. I'm thinking like I'll give you cash in a sense. The U.S. government, Uncle Sam, is now going to purchase ahead of time to fund you whatever else and. You may or may not need to give it back to us or not, but I'll front you the cash now, and you stay open. So I guess Uncle Sam can do that. Even solve
it. Mike, there was good news this weekend. I don't know if you saw this or not, but now that I'm talking to you today, it reminded me of this story that I saw, and it was actually pretty cool. Did you see what happened in Chile with this drone in Chile?
I did not.
Oh man,
tell me.
Oh man, it was cool. It was cool because it's like against the police state, right? But apparently there was this drone, and I don't know what the drone was doing, right? But like the Chileans, right? They just focused these green lasers, the cheap ones that you can buy in like the dollar store. There were like 100 of these lasers focused on the drone, and they tried to move the drone away, but they like essentially commandeered over the radio frequency, and they brought this drone down. Did you see that?
I did not see that at all.
It was really neat, but I know you'll know those lasers because you can see them all shooting up and pointing on that drone there. But that strikes me as good because this is like people are kind of tired of this whole police state mentality, and it shows that there's a little victory right there. And I don't even know why I brought that up, other than all the chaos that we see around us. It seems like the people never get ahead, right? It's just the protests get squashed or they just die off. But here's an example where the protesters were actually able to accomplish something. So.
Yeah, think about this, like right now. And so once again, it'll take some time to sit down and jot down all the places on this planet that's currently having political unrest, social unrest, you name it, and put on a list. Because to my knowledge, let me know if I'm wrong, this is the first time that I'm aware of us heading into a new decade with multiple locations being relatively hot, as far as being very fragile economically, socially, you name it, all at the same time of entering a new decade. And so think about going into 2020 with more nations now having issues. So there's more people in the streets in their countries around this planet than any time that I'm aware of. And they're all like second tier, third tier type nations because of their economy not being as big and as important as the U.S. And so just imagine sometime, I hope I'm wrong, but sometime in the next decade, there has there will be a time where there'll be people outside your window, perhaps, or outside the Capitol building in your city or something like that, because of the same level of manipulation, corruption, or whatever it is that's happening in those countries will become evident here, I think.
Very good points. Very good points. And, this has been going on for like a year now. I didn't realize this, but the whole yellow vest thing, that's a year old now, right? So, yeah. I mean, these things are moving forward and they're building on themselves. And you don't even really hear about this in the mainstream at all, right? Like if a person doesn't actively seek out this type of information, because when we get shadow banned, it doesn't pull up in people's recommended feeds. But if a person's not actively seeking out this information, they have no idea that the world's going up in flames right now,
Yeah.
So low blood pressure said, we need to get someone else to ask questions too, because I like the back and forth, but we don't have the call in. So if someone's got a question, they got to do that at Silver Doctors and ask it. But anyway, he's making up a good point. The farm bailouts are eventually going to get to the stock market. Apparently, President Trump and Powell were meeting today again, and they were discussing negative interest rates, and I don't know what else they were discussing, but I'm sure President Trump, sooner or later, at one point, he's going to be talking about, we should do like the Bank of Japan and buy stocks. Thoughts?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Because at the end of the day, it's a race to the bottom. We're on the last leg of a monetary system that inherently is flawed in nature because of the idea of bringing nothing into something and then having people pay back that something when it costs you nothing. Just the very concept of reserves from a central bank is an issue. So why not, man? They're going to do whatever it takes to keep this expansion going. Jerome Powell has admitted he'll do whatever it takes inside the toolkit or outside the toolkit. We're all a part of an experiment. So if you're part of an experiment, you do have the choice to participate at a much higher level by keeping your economic survival skills and everything you have in that system. Or if you want to just sit on the sideline, take the risk of losing and losing those gains that people are so pressed to receive, because at the end of the day, it's about preservation, in my opinion. So everyone has a choice to make, and it's going to really kick in 2020 and beyond. So, yeah, I don't know. I might sound like a doom and gloom. Was that a doom and gloomer type of response?
No, that's all good. That's all good. I like the economic survival skills because that's going to be important. I'd like to talk about something that happened this weekend, Mike. It's going to be embarrassing to admit this, but Half Dollar broke down this weekend and bought his 14-year-old daughter the new iPhone, Mike. Now, before you go too hard on me, I just want to talk, right, about this for a little bit. So don't go too hard on me. It is torture, Mike. If you are in high school today and you have a home button on your phone, that's like the worst thing. That's like having an accident in your pants if you got a home button on your phone. So my daughter's no longer got this home button on her phone, right? But just simple things that I'd like to talk about related to this experience with buying this iPhone. Now, this is the flagship one, right? It was the low model, like 64 gigs, but it's like, and they got so many words after it now, I don't even know how to say it right, but it's like the iPhone Max X11 Pro R, I don't know, it's something weird like that, right? But it's the expensive one. It's $1,100. They go more expensive depending on the storage you get. Here's a few points. They used to put their headphones in a nice little plastic case, and they used to be, hard plastic and clear translucent. You remember those? Or I don't know if you use an iPhone or not. But anyway, we've had a few iPhones. But not anymore. Now it's just wrapped in cardboard, right? So shrinkflation in the Apple iPhone. So that's just one point. Another point, I don't know if you remember this, but do you remember, maybe it was in the 90s, but there was this campaign done by Apple. And one of the things that they were doing in this television commercial campaign is that talking about how they were making fun of Windows users because you always had to sit here and wait on all these updates. And the big thing was that Apple's ready to go out of the box, Mike, out of the box. So, while we're in the Apple store, right, because my daughter can't buy it anywhere else. It's got to be from the Apple store. So we were in the Apple store buying this brand new $1,100 iPhone. And it's not ready out of the box anymore, right? You got to go through all these updates now. So here's what I'm thinking about that, right? people aren't buying these iPhones, right? These iPhones are sitting there as inventory, right? Because, you know, if you buy the cheaper models, because I'm watching these people, right? And, you know, because they take you into the back and they like sit you down at this table where they help you optimize it or whatever it is that they're doing. And like this one person had this cheaper one, like this yellow one, and I guess it's like the cheaper model or something. But, you know, the Apple guy helps them. They fire it up and they're like, oh, this is already updated right out of the box. You don't need to do anything to this. So that's what my clue tells me, that, you know, the slowdown is here, right? And it's this little incremental stuff that we see in the real world that we can point to as clues that this slowdown is here. Why is Apple not updated out of the box anymore? Because people aren't buying them, so they're getting outdated. And why are they now using, instead of nice clear acrylic and all this and all that, they're just using cardboard? Because, you know, costs are starting to go up and they're trying to cut costs wherever they can. So just, you know, I just wanted to share those experiences because there's fun little economic like lessons just involved with going to the store and buying an Apple iPhone. Any thoughts on that, Mike? I just felt like sharing that.
So I would imagine all the really large corporations, the like Apples, the Microsofts, and Facebooks, whatever, they probably have restructured their investment model away from further technology and all those little small details, because from all the articles we talked about, they're looking to hold more cash now. So why continue to pump out these products when there's so much competition now? Yet Huawei is number one, I think, and Samsung or whatever. So Apple's not even, it's second or third now. So once again, and I want to say as a result of like the Samsung dropping its price, Apple was forced to drop its price or something like that, where this competition is out there, which is great. So I'm wondering why it's still $1,100 when there's so many flagship phones out there from, you know, other companies. But with that being the case, I would imagine they are sitting more in cash, restructuring how they spend currently, because they need to be ready for all the fire sales that's coming, or just company preservation for themselves to keep Apple moving, because they haven't been innovative at all to me in the last several years, to where I haven't been impressed with much of their products. So I've never been a fan, but so I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah, those are all good points to make there. I see a highlight. I don't know if it's highlighted or not. Mike, the farm bailout taking place. So this is a question for you, Mike. Please let me know your opinion on your endorsement with Trump being. Please let me know your opinion.
I see that from Denmark. Mike, the farm bailout taking place. Please let me know your opinion on your endorsement with Trump being that you have spoke of doom and gloom.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the intent of the question is there, Mike. Are you?
Yeah, Denmark. I read it. I can't quite decode that. Do me a favor, try to clarify a little better, because I'm not sure if it's a question there or just a statement or whatnot. So let me know what you're trying to say, and I'll definitely share my opinion on it. So, but it's about I'm not sure, so I don't want to not answer the right question or thought, because I don't understand it completely.
Yeah, and I guess I could have read that before stopping and going on there, but I thought it was more of a question. But anyway, because it said, please let me know, that's what caught my attention, and it caught my eye right there. $67 phones at Walmart. Yeah, try telling that to a high school girl freshman. You know, that's not going to fly, you know. So everybody in my household loves iPhones, and so apart from my wife, who actually went out and bought a new one, I always buy a used model. So but my oldest son has a 7 or 8 or whatever, I don't know what number it is, but it works just fine. And I'm telling them, like, you feel the peer pressure, I'll tell you, I'm not gonna go spend no money on a phone because you get peer pressure. Better do something on your own. and it's crazy too, because like the kids got better phones than the parents do, right? So, you know, my daughter got the brand new iPhone 11, whatever it's called. It's got like a whole string of words. And my wife, see, my phone was broken. I had a Samsung. It was broken. Like the headphone jack wasn't working. It was really glitchy. The home button didn't work anymore. So there's like tons of problems with this phone. They don't even know how to like open the screen. You got to like do all these weird things just to use the phone, right? But I had this phone for a long time. So they're like, well, Dad, this is great, because then you get Mom's phone and Mom can get my phone and then I can get the new iPhone, right? But it's like, you know, so the parents are the ones that get the hand-me-downs now, right? So it's like, what's going to happen when I go to get them their first car, right? Am I going to get the used car and they get the new car?
Oh man, they working against you, man. Yeah, yeah. I
So,
got a boy, so I'm just like, my favorite word is no. So then they go to mom is yeah. So yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Oh my goodness,
yeah,
man.
that is good.
So watch
And
this. So go
mhm.
ahead.
Yeah, and I was
Go ahead.
just
No,
gonna say in the stream, if it seems like our live stream is a little haphazard today, well, that's because it is, right? It's a little bit haphazard, and there's been a lot going on. In fact, I just got done speaking with Paul Craig Roberts, and that interview is going to be up tomorrow, and that's a powerful interview with what we talked about. I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but that's going to be good. So, yeah, so we're tweaking our times here, and just to make just a general announcement, over the holiday season, there might be a couple times where we tweak it, but we're still going to be in this fight doing it at least twice a week and trying to hit our 12 o'clock start times, but we're going to be
yeah,
looking at different times as well too.
yeah.
Any thoughts on that
Real.
there, Mike?
That's real. So yeah, definitely. Like I'm really excited because we're going to start actually bringing some guests on and interviewing them and talking to them on the live stream side of things. So looking to find new ways to just bring you guys more content, more information, so that it helps us process and do things better, so that we'll come out better as this thing unfolds. So definitely always thinking about you guys and trying to make sure we deliver our best. So I enjoy this.
Yep. So we're coming up on an hour, well, 48 minutes, but let's go ahead and dial this back. What do you say, Mike? Since we were
Good.
Since we were running a little bit behind today, we wanted to make sure we were able to get live anyway, though. I actually like this premiere feature because that way people knew it was at 2:00 today instead of 12.
Oh, okay. So sorry to cut you off. So Denmark clarified it. He said basically, how is Trump doing? What is your grade? So if I was to give President Trump a grade, so here's the thing: the criteria would be kind of different because he ran upon like the libertarian, deep state investigations, jail time, prison. Like he was talking all that good talk. And so now he's repeating the same thing the former administrations did, like technically, because between him running and currently, something occurred in the middle, or it was always a part of the script. So it's hard to grade. Yeah. But if I was just giving my honest opinion based upon my personal thoughts, I never really thought he was going to do much anyway. So I'm not surprised. So I'll give him a C because he's average like everybody else as far as what he's spoken about and what he's done actually in the bigger picture. Like there's certain things he's disrupted, certain things that might be better than before. He's caused more turbulence in a good way that's leading us into this shift, unlike his predecessors who would have just said yes, yes, yes to everybody, shook everybody's hand, got pat on the back, and would have done nothing. So as far as him bringing this thing down to a crash course or a smooth landing, he's doing his job. So I think that's what he's in office for. So I give him a C, give him an average. How about you?
Incomplete.
Incomplete. Okay.
Incomplete. They give me an I, right? Like
that's
they give my kids when they don't do their work, they get an I. But here's the thing, right? The one thing that I can say that is actually really good is we're getting taboo topics out into the mainstream. And I think that that's important, right? So, when we talk about rigged markets, President Trump was talking about rigged elections, right? And I remember talking about that. And because I was talking about that with my dad before the elections, like, well, you probably think that the election's rigged too, don't you? And I'm like, well, yeah, the election's totally rigged. But my point is that it's good to talk about these things, right? Because these are the conversations that we have to have. So I will give him credit for that. But man, I tell you though, this is the first time I watched every single one of the debates as far as like when there was just two candidates between him and Hillary, right? This is the only time I ever watched all of the debates. And, and I watched the inauguration, and, he said all of the right things, right? He said all the right things. He made all the right statements. It's just, there's been no follow through at all. So, that's unfortunate. I don't know what else to say about that other than it would have been nice to, actually drain the swamp. It would have been nice to, pop the big fat ugly bubble so we can start again instead of keep expanding the big fat ugly bubble. So the question then is that more harmful than it is good, right? So that's a hard question to answer because, he pointed out what the problems are, but then he didn't address them. So we're kind of like worse off right now, right? So,
Yeah.
and then the mass arrests and the military tribunals and that's just like we talked about last week. Remember, I was like, how are they going to drain the swamp if all these people that can point fingers and name names keep dying? Erdogan from Turkey said that at the White House. Did you see that?
I did not know.
He said something about how he said he didn't talk about the Syrian white helmets guy, right? He was the latest. But he said Epstein. No, not Epstein. I can't remember who he said, but I think it was Epstein and then al-Baghdadi, right? The ISIS guy that we supposedly took out. He goes, they were taken out because they know too much. Right? So that's the same thing that we're talking about. How is any of this swamp going to get drained when A, everybody's distracted with this impeachment inquiry, so nothing can get done anyway, and then B, all the people who actually have the real hard witness evidence that could provide that testimony are dead, right? Dead men don't talk. So, I see it unfortunate.
Oh my God. Yeah. So, yeah. And that's the thing is we're approaching the end of the year. There will be no clear, there'll be no real truth being given. So once that Epstein situation died and went under, that was all she wrote. So I don't see any more of that coming out because that might have been just a warning to whoever. If you decide to try to leak or talk or whatever, we got an example of what could be. Therefore, you choose. So yeah, we may not have any more people that are that deep in the system to come out or be exposed in that nature. But apparently they still have his books and all the logs and all that stuff like that. So we'll see. That stuff might have just come up missing like Hillary's server or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So don't expect any good news from the mainstream. Only expect news you create for yourself. That's what it boils down to.
Sounds great. So my closing thoughts for today, Mike, would be that, when I woke up this morning, when you look at gold and silver as your barometer, it looks like suddenly things are just starting to get back to normal again. But they're far from normal. And it's interesting, too, because I'm looking at, there's silver there. And there's gold there. I'm learning how to point backwards. But look at how they recovered, right? Look at how they recovered. This is a losing battle. This suppression is not going to last a whole lot longer, right? And manipulations can't last forever. And this one's been long in the tooth. So, whenever we see these weaknesses, look how fast they spring right back up. So I think that that's promising because when I look at the world, gold and silver are not reflecting the reality of what's going on in the world, in my opinion. So those are my closing thoughts there, Mike. So let's get your closing thoughts on if you want to sign us off there, Mike.
For sure. So, yeah, not much really. It's been great hanging out. So definitely to Wednesday, same time frame. So I'm not currently at home base, so it's hard to do this. But yeah, Paul, holding it down as always. I appreciate you. And so other than that, enjoy the rest of your day. There's going to be more news to talk about throughout the week. So as always, if you guys enjoy this information, give it a thumbs up. And then share this video and invite some friends back to the community so they can get informed and find out some events that they're not going to hear on Fox. Like you'll never have two people going back and forth without teleprompters giving their versions of truth. So definitely some valuable information here. So other than that, that's all I got to say.
Sounds good. We'll see you on Wednesday at 12 o'clock. And in the meantime, in Mike's words, peace. Oh, you had one more thing though, right? Or did you have one more thing?
I was going to say Wednesday at 2.
Wednesday at 2 o'clock. Wednesday at 2 o'clock. Wednesday at 2 o'clock. And still peace, right? So we'll see you guys later. And keep it real. Mike, talk to you on Wednesday.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Sounds good.